Ladies and gentlemen, we have a guy here. I would call him a business associate, and we turn into a friendship. Um, while it might look like I was one major administrator, it's people like this guy who helped me throughout the years, and a lot of the players in the Caribbean community would know who this person is. So without further ado, I'll ask you to introduce yourself.
True. My name is Tony Lupinacci. As Alden McGill so kindly introduced me as Loopy. My friends know me as Loopy, so that's why Alden has the opportunity here to use my nickname. We met back in, I guess, back in the early 80s, and to date ourselves now. I had a soccer store, and Alden was a very regular customer, always trying to beat me up for a nickel. But other than that, it was always for a good cause, he always say. So we helped him out any way we could. And of course, over the years, we developed a fantastic relationship to the point where we were challenged all the time by his so-called fantastic teams that he played on and coached and managed. And we had to make a decision to play either the youth team or the older team, I guess, right? The veterans. You would call them the veterans. Our relationship went beyond just, working as a retail transactional kind of a relationship.
Okay. In getting to know you, I realized you had a lot of guys from your community, and in doing a research, I realized that I don't know how you did it, but it seemed like you win a lot of championships. So I didn't really see that in you because, as the public already here, you BS a lot. So on, sense of humor. So could you give us a little bit of that part of you where, you end up coaching, how you get this done, and more than once?
Yes. Well, thank you. Just to clarify, we actually won one national championship in 1989. We were very fortunate to win our second attempt at the national championship. We were there as a club with Scarborough, Missouri. Was our men's program, and I think I took over the program. John and I coached. John Benedictus and I were partners at the retail store, and then he asked me to help him coach his youth team, which was at the time I guess the guys were about 17 or 18 years old, and then we took them.
As you mentioned retail store, maybe you should give the retail store a plug.
Yeah, Metro Sport, on Warden Avenue, of course, very famous place. Anyway, we used to. I helped him start coaching. I helped him coach his team that he was coaching from a very young age, and brought a bit of a different flair, different look. John's a very composed, very calm individual. I brought a little bit more hype and a little bit more, excitement, I think, to the team. And with that came some players, as I coached against them for a year prior to us becoming business partners. And so we kind of amalgamated the two teams, and we coached them together till they were about under 21 years old, and we won the Robbie, culminating with winning the Robbie tournament. And then from there, I was asked by the Scarborough, Missouri to take the team, the men's team. So John and I split up. I took the senior men's team over, and I think in 1984 and 85. And so I coached that team. I basically assumed the team from a previous coach and kept the team intact was my strategy. Just kept the team and just try to get to know the players and see what worked. And as time went on, after the first year, I started bringing up a couple of players from John's team. He basically was our youth farm system, if you will. He brought up the likes of Peter Nord and Greg Sosa. If you remember back, Tom Sosa, probably, of course, in the community.
Yeah.
Of course, very popular man. So we brought up a couple of players, and every year as time went on, more and more of the younger players were migrating to the first team. And as time went on, I guess some of the older players started to get squeezed out, which didn't always go over well with our directorship of the club, because they were longstanding members. But it was a bit of not a conflict. It was we always had lots of meetings about the strategy of the team, and it was their pride and joy. They built it and had a lot of these members around for a long time. And then we decided to create an old timers team, as a result of some of these guys having to go to pasture because it was time. And so our team started at that point, started to take a much younger look and a more, I think, more dynamic and more exciting look and on the team, on the field.
What I'm waiting for is I want to know if it was lucky or what it was that you got in contact and be able to sign
Some of the
somebody
players
that end up playing for me later on.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the players, when we started winning. And I think, the most important thing is that the style of football that we played, people loved to see the change where we used to control the ball rather than playing that long ball, very direct game. We'd like to move the ball around and certainly we started to attract a lot more exciting players, very skillful players. And certainly it was the toughest decision was trying to decide who was going to play and who wasn't, because we had, we ended up building a roster that was pretty deep, and the bench was never an issue for us. But the success started breeding success, if you will. I was very fortunate to be in that position, and I guess the biggest thing was that we had a very financially stable soccer club that was behind us. Our organization, Scrub Missouri, was second to none at the time, and people really didn't know us because they spent a lot of time playing in the Italian league, and then we moved to the Toronto District League for the first year, and then we won that pretty easily, and then got promoted to the Ontario Soccer League, and the rest was history. So as we played at the highest level in men's, more and more players, as guys like Gary Bryan and Mark Gibbs were having their time at the semi-pro and pro levels,
So let me
started
ask
making
you.
their way.
So let me ask you now that you start calling the names. Which one of these players from our community came to you first? I know Gibbo was working with you at one time when I came around.
Yeah. Well, Gibbo started playing for us.
And who brought who?
Who?
Who brought who? Who came?
Well, that's the $1 million question. It depends who you talk to on what day, right? Certainly Gibbsy was one of our first, was a hire, but he actually came to a tournament with us. We went to the Welland, the cash tournament in Welland, indoor tournament. I think that's when it all kind of started. Derek didn't come, but I think that first time it was Mark Gibbs, Keith Costello came along, and they were probably the first two that kind of came along with us. Went to this indoor tournament. We had a lot of fun. We would go out and party at nights, and the guys just knew that when we came to play, we came to play. And then when it was time to party, we sure had a lot of good times and a lot of fun. And I'm not sure which memories I still treasure the most, but it was par for the course, man. We played hard and we partied hard, and that was it. So it was fun because there was a lot of times. It was a pretty funny story, actually. I remember the first year one of the years a lot of the guys we used to travel together, and we would often, the club would always rent us vans or something. We'd go play in Windsor or in London or for Ontario Cup and stuff like that. So we'd always try to make the game on a Saturday afternoon, because on Saturday night the town was going to get lit up because Missouri was in town.
I know you're a fun guy, and it seems like fun sometimes is overplayed, but at the same time, the accomplishment you had, what would you say that when it's time to play, and how you match up your team, and then then I want to bring the people to where you came in and we start linking up together.
Mm-hmm. Well, we started certainly, the transformation, as like I said earlier, started to happen as we started to win, and as time went on, after the first year we went to the Ontario Soccer, or the Italian League, when I took over the team, the first year in the Italian League, we had a lot of success, and we finished second, but we outclassed a club called Insula, I think they were called, and John Williams and Derek Tomasas were the cornerstones of that team, as well as Derek Wilson and Colin Price. So I remember we were at the awards banquet, and I think I won Coach of the Year that year, and we finished second. And of course, over the season we played these guys a bunch of times, and so I got to know the players kind of off the field in the parking lot, because our guys would always hang around and have some fun, and all the other teams would always disperse. So we used to have a couple of beers in the corner somewhere, and always had extra beer for other guys, and they would come over and we would chat. And I used it as an opportunity to introduce them to my store, as well as, when they came in there, I had an opportunity to spend some time with them. And as time went on, I started to recruit some of these guys, and as they started to come and sign with us and play, obviously they opened up the doors to the community, and we had a very collective, very unique group. Certainly a lot of players from the Caribbean community, and they brought a whole different complexity to our team, and it was very exciting and very unbeatable, I will say.
Let me ask you, based on the community now, did you knew about the Irie tournament? You know about Flemington Park? Because I was coming to get uniform numbers or whatever. That's how I start meeting you guys at JMT. And were you aware of the community leagues that we had?
Yeah, of course. And the funny thing was that we used to train a couple times a week, and especially on a Saturday or Sunday, usually on a Sunday morning if we didn't play early in the season. And when the Irie tournament was on, or there was some sort of a March pass or something that was going on, I remember all these crazy things that used to happen at Flemington, and I'd go to the practice and be half the team was there. I knew exactly where the other half was, and of course we we would Flemington rules, man, and that's just the way it was, and we just knew, so as time went on, it was funny. I used to try to put the schedule together for the month in advance because guys started working and stuff. And I'd always try to find out, probably from the likes of yourself and other members of the community, to find out when these tournaments were, and when I knew not to call practice because I would be standing around with all the Italian guys, and all the Caribbean players were gone to play elsewhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tony, in the preseason, we know Irie tournament, and he's mentioned in these tournaments and Flemington, but we used to use Aziri as practice game, and they were tough. Whatever the score was, it was good practice. It was practice that we needed. So from there, we evolved to Admiral.
After I spent 14 years in the retail business, I decided it was time to kind of cast a net, into a different segment of the soccer business, and myself and a number of other partners acquired the rights for the Admiral soccer brand. It was a global soccer brand, the first original soccer brand in the world, actually, older than Umbro, and so we acquired the rights, the distribution rights. We called at the time a licensing agreement for Canada, United States, and the Caribbean. And so I did that for about 21 years. And then the relationship. So basically I was importing and developing and designing uniforms for the North American market, as well as the Caribbean market. We didn't really tap into that market until later on. And I think we started really focused on Canada, obviously, because that was my roots. And then from there, we started actually, we sponsored the Shell Cup down in, it used to be in the Caribbean every year. And with Jack Warner, actually, we got a sponsorship deal through Trinidad and Tobago with Jack Warner. He was the CONCACAF director at the time, and was in charge of the Caribbean Shell Cup, which was a CONCACAF kind of a warm-up tournament. And so we used to go down and set up shop down there and sell some product. All the teams were, we had a lot of the teams that were wearing our product, and so it was good fun. And of course, Alden McGill realized that now, had another opportunity to hit on, and we maintained our relationship and our friendship, certainly, and as we did with a lot of the Caribbean teams that we got to know over the years, and they'd always reach out looking for some help, some sponsorship, and any way we could. And listen, you don't build a business with, it's all for yourself. We realized we had to give back to the communities, and the members that were always committed to us, we gave back, gladly.
Yeah, but ladies and gentlemen, this is the type of support and help I really needed to be able to even pull off the Montjoy tournament. Tony used to go with me up at Montjoy. We used to help with the banners and everything else. So again, Tony, thanks for supporting the community. So it really wasn't about me, it was the community. And I feel in this project we're doing, seeing that you had these guys before that I get in contact with after you, I thought it was important to get you to say a few words to our community, that is people like you, had our community going. So,
Mhm.
what was your experience like in dealing with our community? What you have to say? Obviously, they can tell already that you're into fun, you know.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and we still always was. There was never any shortage of laughs, right? It was
Mm,
always something that was someone was always entertaining somebody, right? And it would always start on the field, right? It would always start on the field. Guys would they would beat a man, and everybody would like what and make all kinds of noise, and that they nutmeg somebody, and it was a big deal, man. Somebody left the store open, the legs were open, and they would just beat somebody up, and it was just and they never let them forget it on the field and after the game, and it didn't matter who we were playing, and we used to when we used to travel, it was quite fun because we had obviously a mix of nationalities and certainly of course we're still our background was an Italian club, Scarborough, Missouri, so we couldn't change that. Um, I think it was back in 19 I'm going to say in 1990 89, I think maybe actually 87, first time we went to the national champion, our first Ontario Cup, which led us to the national championship tournament. And so we were, I can't remember, I'm going to say I think we were in Winnipeg, and they were the host province. And there was a club there called Lucania, Italian, another Italian based club. And they were the premier team in their province. So they actually, when they found out Scarborough, Missouri was coming to play, they really didn't know us except for our name. And they knew, hey, listen, Italians stick together. So when we got there, they met our entourage of our directors and myself, and my father was the team manager at the time, and we got together with them, and we had a couple of drinks, and a couple of drinks led to more fun, and with the directors, I said, well, we can't have you in Winnipeg without hosting your team. And our team was still in the hotel, and I can't remember where. I think we maybe gone to the Lucania club and had a couple of drinks with them there. And so we agreed that after the Saturday night game, we had the day off, or on the Friday night, we had the Friday night game, we had the night off on Saturday, and that they would host us and we'd have dinner. But we made, I remember when our bus pulled up in front of the Lucania club, and they were all there to greet us. Their players were in the if you could imagine what this looked like. So we pulled up this banquet hall, I guess, it was a small banquet hall, and they had members of the community and distinguished people that were there as well, and their players. So their directors are waiting for us. So we open the door to the bus, and we come off the bus, and it was like one Caribbean player, another one, another one, another one, another one. We kept and this old Italian guy came over. So my father and I were standing. We were one of the first ones off the bus, of course, and they looked at us and said, "But I don't understand. Is this Scarborough, Missouri? So you guys are Italian. This doesn't look like an Italian team." And it was quite interesting from back in those days. Of course, it was kind of almost accepted that if you had the Croatian team, then all of your membership as
that's
well as all
correct.
your players were Croatian. And the one great thing about Scarborough, Missouri, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered. It was about the player, and it didn't matter what color you were. It didn't matter what nationality or where you came from or who your parents were. It didn't matter. We had an open book, and that's what made it fun. We were a very international team. We had a Korean kid playing for us. We had all kinds of from different parts of the world. It didn't matter. Greek kids. Nick Montes, for example, the new Canadian president new president of Canada Soccer, played with us. It didn't matter. Nationalities meant nothing. Macedonian, Greeks, it didn't matter. We all mixed in, and we had a lot of fun. And so this Italian guy was like, I don't understand. We thought we were having an Italian. So they had this party, and they had someone speaking, making speeches, and it was in Italian, and then they would translate to English, and it was a lot of fun, and I said, guys, this is Scarborough, Missouri, man. This is who we are, and we're multinational and multicultural, and we didn't care. And then of course we ended up playing them in the I think in the semifinals, and it was a vicious game,
The same
vicious
team,
game.
the same legit.
Yeah, the team that hosted us, we ended up meeting them in the semifinals on the Sunday night, or on the Monday, because the tournament would go to Monday or Tuesday. So we played them in the semifinals, and we beat them, and we went on to the finals that year, and we lost, and then we won in 1989 in Newfoundland with a better team. The likes of Derek Wilson and Colin Price came on board after that year. So that the team, we started to turn it up a bit. And of course, you talk to guys like Johnny Williams, and of course Gary Bryan came along after 1989. Mike Mendonça came along. Gibbsy was obviously still there. the likes of George Adgeropoulos, who, of course, the most sexiest man in the world. We had all kinds of, we had a great deal of talent, and of course, we can't forget we had Doug Innes, who of all of
Oh
of
yeah,
course, Doug
God
Innes,
rest his soul. Yeah.
yeah, he was he came on board as our trainer, and Dougie Fresh was always, he always provided a lot of fun when things got tense in the dressing room. Dougie would always do a little dance or a little
Was he
shuffle or
doing double
something.
duty with you on Monteleone, or he was?
Yeah, he did. Well, sometimes he did triple duty because he was very well liked and extremely respected, and he had this magic tea that he would make. And after 20 years of Dougie and I being side to side, whenever we traveled, we would room together, and I'd always try to peek over his shoulder when he was putting together his. He had this hot tea that he would make, and I used to swear to God, I used to think, if somebody ever gave us a breathalyzer, there must be something in that drink that would probably be banned if it was in today's world.
That's a serious name to call their boy. Doug Innes, boy.
Yeah, we had some great people. Like, honestly, like I said, I look back and certainly, winning was, like I said, it made it easy to recruit players. The program, the club allowed us to make sure that every player was treated exactly the same, and they didn't have to pay registrations. There wasn't such things, so it didn't matter what walk of life or how much money you made or you didn't make. If you were a student or you didn't have a whole lot of money and you were a family man, and all we asked is you give us the time and you commit to our club, and the rest was fun.
But based on that system you just mentioned in there about that financial burden sometimes that players have to undergo, I understand the system still put a lot of weight on parents and stuff do you think the less burden on the player and the parent for somebody with ability based on the success you had, is it not a better mechanism for a person with the ability to have to pay to show themselves? You don't find that's a burden in getting the best players?
Absolutely. I think this is something that all, certainly North America has had the challenge, right? To start to hire coaches, and the country is so big, and player identification has always been a real challenge for any manager, any coach that, has a national team of sorts. So when they start to do things regionally, I mean, the case was always the situation. We used to travel to the U.S. to coaches shows and stuff like that, and try to learn different things. And the more people we spoke to, it was very clear that the upper echelons was paid very handsomely. And then the process, the funnel to get to, was an inverted funnel. So on your way up the ladder, especially from a player identification process, you got to a certain level. And if a player couldn't travel to the next ID camp, they were calling them at the time, then they never went beyond that, and the same thing would happen here in Ontario. When I look back, when I played as a young player, provincial teams and players that were identified to go to the Olympic team or the youth team, if they didn't make a commitment to travel every Saturday and Sunday morning to Ivor Stadium in Hamilton from Toronto, if you didn't have a mechanism to get there or a ride, you weren't going to get onto you weren't going to get on that squad. Always. Yeah, it's tough. I think now that there are support programs at the youth level from, Jumpstart and things like that from Canadian Tire, and sponsorships, and certainly, what we've gone through in the last year, obviously in the world, I think it's going to get harder financially for a lot of people. Again, I think, clubs and associations, really, we were very fortunate. We had bingo sponsorship, and we had a lot of great members in our community that not only played with our club for years, but went on to different professions. And there was a lot of silent donors that people didn't really know. That, people say, why is he hanging around our club and what does he do here? And we didn't really say a whole lot, but there's a lot of people that gave not only a lot of time, gave a lot of money, and a lot of people did a lot of work behind the scenes to ensure that we had bingo licenses with people behind the scenes to make sure that our books were up to snuff, so that we never lost our bingo license, because it was very lucrative. And from that, we went from a 2-team senior program to a youth program. And again, we didn't care. We were in the roots of Scarborough, and we turned a lot of heads at the youth program. We had 17 teams at one point. We had a women's program.
To me, I'm still marveled at, Tony, is how you are so comfortable with the community accepting the multiculturalism, you just move just like a brother, man.
Listen, there's definitely cultural differences in being Italian versus some of the Caribbean, for sure. Um, I love the people. I'm not gonna lie. I love the food. I love the laughs that came with it, and certainly there was there was obviously challenges because some players were, you know, walk a different walk, and they would carry on a little differently, and the funny thing was I look back all these years and the team had a way of maybe policing itself, like the guys that came on the team it didn't take very long to be castaways because the other guys on the team wouldn't allow you, man. That's just not what we were about. That
Exactly.
wasn't our culture.
Exactly.
We didn't want anybody being, we had a lot of great individual players, and the fact that they all played together and they wanted to win, and then we were all brothers, man. It didn't matter, and I think that made it different. We had some fantastic players that came, and I honestly was trying to think about some of the names. I can't even remember, but I have to go back through some of my old handwritten team lists because at the time we didn't have computers that we would log all this stuff and keep it. But there was some great players that came along and they didn't last the season. Like they would just come in and play, and we would start the season and they'd ask for their release. And it was the best thing that would happen because they were going to be a problem on our team going the rest of the year. And but we all, the other thing too that we pride ourselves is that guys like Gary and guys like and Johnny and Derek Wilson left our team, came to our team, left our team to go play elsewhere, came back. And to me, the testament of a good program, a great place to play is when players leave, and where they think sometimes for better, sometimes they leave that they think the grass is greener on the other side, as they say, and they manage to come back, which is always, to us, it was the greatest compliment to our club. And we used to talk about it all the time around the board. Our executive used to talk about it all the time that, we lost so-and-so, and you went to play, in the NSL for some money. We didn't pay any players. And they would come back, and when they were done or when they got a raw deal or Toronto Italia didn't pay them last week, they would ask for their release and they come back and play for fun because they were tired of training and traveling and being rewarded, or they didn't get the promise they didn't keep the promise that they made to them. So and that was what we were about. And
the same way you handle when people were poaching and offering contracts, how much per game and stuff like the CNSL or whatever. Yeah. How you handle that?
Well, I mean, players would come to me and say, Loopy, you got to, I'm getting offered, a couple $100 a game. And I'd say, listen, good for you. If that's where, if you need the money and that's where you want to play, it's a decision that players would make. And it was, it's never easy losing a good player or a good member of a team or a club. And certainly, above all, I created a lot of friendships and a lot of memories, and you never want to lose guys like that. But like I said, it was a year or two down the road, and they'd always kind of find their way back,
Yeah.
And it was great. We made a lot of great friendships, and a lot of these guys were friends before. And I think a lot of them, obviously a testament to your community and your members. You guys still do these tournaments and these teams all still kind of play. And you certainly personally, I think, benefited from a lot of these players coming along and doing their thing. I know that if John Williams is listening today, I know that Johnny tried to tear a page out of my book and win a few championships, and kudos to Johnny. I always call him every time he wins, and we're great friends with Johnny. We still stay in touch, and he's a great member of your community, and he's a popular guy. Johnny was a fun guy to have around for sure.
So where is Azuri still functioning? Where I know you're not with Admiral. Last time I saw you was with another company. How's everything, and how you're working with this COVID and everything else?
Well, this COVID hasn't been good to the sporting goods business, that's for sure. There's not a whole lot going on right now, and it doesn't seem like the season now. Obviously, the 2021 soccer season, not only soccer, every sport, it's a spring and summer sport, is probably in jeopardy now with this darn COVID thing. But I think I feel bad that from a business standpoint, certainly I'm really happy actually I'm not involved in a business during this crazy time, because it would be a very difficult time. But but from a personal standpoint, I walk my dog in the morning and at nights, and in the morning I walk by a local park here, and it's quiet, and then a couple weeks ago when the weather was good and school was in, and you could hear the screams and the laughs and the kids, yelling and screaming and playing sports in the park, in the backyard of school at recess or after school, and it was fun, like it's that's what being a kid is. That's what, it's so it's tough, and so I don't think that this is a good time. Certainly, obviously, everybody can attest to that, but I think we'll be better, and it'll come back around. But so I don't know what's in store, but yeah, certainly, it hasn't been good. The sporting goods business has not been good. There's not anything going on, and so it's been challenging even for myself. So the
Yeah.
last year.
Oh, don't let it get to you, because you still have your sense of humor, and you need to keep that, because you could only do so much. Whatever game is played, it still depends on the cards you get dealt.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of
Sometimes
course.
you feel that the pack is a bit short.
Yeah, well, exactly. So it's fun though. Like I said, I've got some great memories, and unfortunately, I don't have the same opportunity to have a room all decorated like you've got there. I've got everything. We just moved recently, and
You
had
did
a
have
bit of
one
an
with old Admiral. Don't even start.
no, gosh, no. I
Admiral.
look behind me. I've got nothing here. It's just I've
That's
got
because
everything
you
packed in
don't
a.
probably want to see it anymore. But
Well, I've got a bunch of stuff in boxes and bins, and I know that my wife keeps saying, I mean, you can carry. We just moved, like I said, in January, and she said to me, she goes, "You're actually going to take all the stuff with you?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "This is memories in a box. I can't leave that stuff behind. It's just
no.
who I am."
Well, you tell her you'll call Alwyn, and Alwyn will come and relieve you. We don't have a
Yeah,
problem with that. That's what buddies are for, man.
I know. But
I'll
listen,
come and help you out.
yeah, man.
I'll relieve you
Listen,
of some of those things.
my casa su casa, amigo. Anytime you want to come over and bring a little rum belly, man, we'll fill it up, and we'll have some drinks, and we'll look at some pictures and reminisce about some fun old times, man. I got some
Yeah.
crazy stuff and some fun stories. I'm sure
Mountjoy,
I'd
yes.
love to share, but I'm not sure I could air them for you. But
I definitely will put Mountjoy in your video, man. Because
yeah,
Mountjoy is you've been a great help to me, Tony, and I
yeah,
want to thank you for all those times. And you just stay up, man.
appreciate it. Thanks very much.
You take care.
All the best of luck. Ciao, guys. Good
Yeah.
seeing everybody.
Okay.